In this lesson, we will be dividing with radicals, and we're going to see a few different methods here as we work through here. In these first, I think on the first page, we're only dividing by a monomial, so one term. There's no plus or minus down there in the denominator. And so what we do, we will use a concept that if we have the square root of a over the square root of b, that's the same thing as the square root of a over b. And vice versa. We might start with a square root that looks like this, and we'll change it to something that looks like that. So the implications here, another thing, the implication here is since we can reduce a fraction sometimes if they have a common factor. If we have two square roots, one on the top, one on the bottom, that have a common factor, we can reduce those. So in these first three, that's really all we end up needing to do, and then we'll end up with some type of perfect square. But as we mentioned before, the simplified version of a fraction does not have square roots in the denominator. So we don't want any square roots in the denominator, and we don't want any unsimplified radicals. And that means we don't want to leave something as like the square root of 4, because the square root of 4 is 2, or something like that. So here we go. Number 1, we're going to see if we can reduce. So we see, can we reduce 3 and 2? We cannot. Then we look, can we reduce 12 and 64? And we think, well, there's a 4 that goes into both of those. So we can reduce those. So we'll have 3 over 2. 4 goes into 12 3 times. 4 goes into 64 16 times. And now that we've done that, we realize we have a perfect square down here, and the square root is 16. So we have 3 root 3 over 2 times 4, which we can multiply 2 and 4, and we get square root of 3 over 8. 3 root 3 over 8. So that's how you can do some of these other ones. Number 2, let's even look at, help you out a little more here. You can pause it and do it on your own first. We have 3 over 3, they reduce to 1. Remember, they don't reduce to 0, they reduce to 1. 4 and 16 reduce, and there's a couple ways to do this one, but 4 and 16 reduce. So really what we have here is 1 times the square root of 1. Square root of 1 is just 1. And then on the bottom, we have 1 times the square root of 4. Square root of 4 is 2. And so we have 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 2. We have 1/2. So number 3, you'll be able to do using those methods we used in 1 and 2.